Recently, a friend showed me a video where a puppet acts out a few lyrics from several songs relating to each D&D character class. No notes. Actually, I do have a few. Mostly that the songs are well known and easy comparisons that don't really require thought behind them or too much understanding of each character class. For example, Get Low is the one for Rogue because rogues sneak. To be clear, that's not a bad choice at all, but I would pick different kinds of music for each of the character classes. What I mean is that everything within the reel was still all pop songs, really. And we're probably not really ready to talk about how they all have the same production. None of the songs are offensive or hard to get into or weird. They are all accessible. And while D&D is accessible to everyone, it is a weird game.
Does this mean that I get to keep the orb of constant pleasant vibration?
So with respect to the original reel, here's my list of songs for each character class.
Pardon me, just a quick edit before I begin because I got the track of the first one wrong. The first suggestion is The Artificer, and it's pretty obvious that it should be Siegfried's forging song from the titular opera Siegfried. Wagner, weapons, magic, it's that simple.
Next up is The Barbarian, and I had a hard time trying to figure this one out, but I eventually landed on Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis. Yes, it is a pop song, but the ironic counterpoint of the powers of the barbarian being powered by rage really pulls the class's theme into focus. Bard is next up, and everyone would want to pigeonhole Bard down into the horny Bard stereotype. Sure, that's fun to play sometimes, but Bards do so much more than that. So Betty Hutton's version of There's No Business Like Show Business, it is.
Business like show business, like no business I know.
See, that's even more obvious and better explains all the different parts and parcels of the bardic class. Cleric is up next, and I went through many different songs. My first thought was something to do with the movie Through a Glass Darkly by Ingmar Bergman.
Irresistibly drawn into the shadows and unspeakable terrors of her imagination.
Or something similar with his movie The Silence.
The silence.
I would do something like God's Silence. However, then I remembered the Virgin Marys and the idea of clerics being holy and dishing out violence made it clear that Cast the First Stone is a great choice for the class. Next up was Druid, which calls for a reach into the kind of folk music you find at fairy worlds or any other place where spaced out hippies who've snorted too much Tolkien residue gather. So I went with Spiral Dance and Into the Green.
Beneath the willows, I watch the clouds in the summer sky.
The Into the Green part should be obvious. It's Druids, after all. Fighter comes next. In the reel I started with, this song was called Fighter, which I just found lazy. You could have at least done Gotta Fly Now, the theme from Rocky. I bet you thought something else with the theme from Rocky. It isn't. But that's not what I went for. I went for the feeling of being the upfront class taking down the large enemies. So it had to be Jimmy Cliff's The Harder They Fall.
And the harder they come, the harder they fall. One another.
Monks pose a different problem. The reel avoided this problem, but the temptation is just to submit kung fu fighting and call it a day. I went the other lazy route at first and thought about playing a song by the garage rock band The Monks from Black Monk Time. But that doesn't express what a monk does or their fury of blows. But following a thread of influences and outsider music down a rabbit hole I've threaded many times before, I arrived at half Japanese in their song Hand Without a Body.
And without a body, creep across the sand.
I think the connection is as obvious as a fury of blows to an enemy's face. Paladins were likewise tricky. Clearly, they call for Western music. However, Ballad of Paladin from Have Gun Will Travel is another too obvious option. If we follow the idea of the Western code, which a paladin is, no matter what code they choose, hopefully they choose one where they don't lawful good all over their party members' faces, we might remember the beautiful tragedy that is the movie High Noon. So, Do Not Forsake Me, My Darling, the theme from High Noon, because it is about making and keeping a promise, is my choice for Paladin.
Do not forsake me, oh my darling, on this our wedding day.
And you should definitely go watch High Noon. John Wayne hated it because he hated reality.
Straight out racist, the sucker was simple and plain. Motherfucking in John Wayne.
Next up was Ranger. And while it would be easy to slip into the same kind of music as the Druid, that's also quite lazy. Now, while I did stick with folk, I thought the best kind of song would be something dealing with what a ranger might be like in real life. So I picked The Drover's Dream since it features animals and an exploration of the outback.
Now the pelican and the crane, they came in from off the plain to amuse the company with a Highland fling.
I hope that makes sense. I think it does. Rogue was next, and something about stealing felt appropriate. But again, an interesting playlist shouldn't be too obvious. Yes, there's a time and a place for playing the hits, but a great playlist exposes people to something new in theme. So I went with Midnight Man by Tea Leaf. Midnight for the nocturnal living of most rogues, and tea leaf as the rhyming slang for the actions they are sure to take. They're thieves. They're thieves. Tea leaf, thief. That's the rhyme. Next up is Sorcerer. So I went with Cat Black, the Wizard's Hat by Tyrannosaurus Rex. If you listen closely, the hat works more like the Sorcerer class in D&D, so this was an obvious choice. Also, this is my chance to say on the record that Tyrannosaurus Rex was a better incarnation than T-Rex, and if you get a chance, you should spin the album Unicorn. It's way more Days of the Underground, to borrow a Hawkwind phrase. Speaking of which, they didn't make an appearance on this list because Michael Moorcock penned lyrics are as obvious as using single ladies for the Bard class. Put your hands up! And still, I think a little too lazy. That's why I didn't also add Blue Oyster Cult, for example. Now, it would be far too easy for Warlock to go with my first thought and follow up 1970s Tolkien-influenced rock with more 1970s Tolkien-influenced rock. How easy would it be here to put Uriah Heep's The Magician's Birthday on the list? But that's not thinking deeply about the class. Next up, the Warlock requires me to specifically not ghettoize music into different categories that never meet. Warlocks are all about making deals, so the song needed to be something to do with deals. I picked Make a Deal by Freddie Dredd. I think that this speaks for itself. Now, to round it all out, we end with the classic magic user, the Wizard. Again, anything 1960s or 1970s with a magic theme is the obvious choice. I could have picked Barabba Jaggle by Donovan, for example. Except that that's about an alchemist, which is an artificer subclass. So instead, I went more hip-hop and Spelling Bee by Missy Elliott.
I hope you get S-P-E-double-L. I'm double XL, y'all can all kiss tell.
Just to be that person and justify myself, I'll give the Alan Moore quote. There's some confusion as to what magic actually is. I think this can be cleared up if you just look at the very earliest descriptions of magic. Magic in its earliest form is often referred to as the art. I believe that this is completely literal. I believe that magic is art, and that art, whether it be writing, music, sculpture, or any other form, is literally magic. Art is, like magic, the science of manipulating symbols, words, or images to achieve changes in consciousness. The very language about magic seems to be talking as much about writing or art as it is about supernatural events. A grimoire, for example, the book of spells, is simply a fancy way of saying grammar. Indeed, to be able to cast a spell is simply to spell, to manipulate words to change people's consciousness. So really, all these artists are casting a spell. After all, they affect your mood and change the very nature of the rooms they are played in, just as sitting down with friends to play D&D changes the world too. You leave yourselves behind and create a story that matters more than the sum of its parts. The story of choosing to spend time together.
Should probably wrap it up. It's getting late. We've been playing for 23 years.
Sorry, football, but that makes this the more beautiful game. So there you have it. My choices for songs for each class in Dungeons & Dragons. Let me know what you think and how inaccessible you think my choices were. Leave your picks down in the comments below, especially if it's a little-known song that you care about more than anyone else. Remember that your passion matters, and it's great to enjoy things.
Yeah, I guess I just like liking things.
As the Northern Soul Patch says, keep the faith.